Hello everyone, welcome back to our second part of this lesson. In this video, we are going to use several examples to practice the two methods we mentioned about arc length. And just want to quickly mention, as we mentioned, so for the method 1, we can just find this arc length by directly setting up as the ratio between arc mirror or central angle compared to 360, and then we just need to multiply the circumference of the circle, which is 2 pi r, or we can set up the ratio as arc mirror compared to 360 or central angle compared to 360 will be equal to the ratio between arc length to the circumference. Once I want to remind you, as you can see, this method can directly give us the answer about the arc length because we set up as arc length equal to this formula. And for this one, as you can see, it seems that it's not so directly to find this because we have two ratios on the two sides. And whenever we see this kind of, setting up, we know we might use cross multiplication to figure out the answer. So each method has its own, easy use in different situation. So this video, we are going to figure out the best way to, choose a method. And of course, if you are comfortable to use either method, it's always good because as long as you calculate correctly, you will find the same answer. So let's check the first example. One thing I want to remind you is to help you to be familiar with formulas. All the examples, you will see the two formulas on the top. This will make it easier for you to make the reference to see which formula we use. And also, one thing I want to remind you again, arc mirror same as central angle. So really doesn't matter, even you see this is arc mirror, but we know it's actually same as central angle. So I can just easily to replace this measurement as central angle. Okay, so this is just one quick reminder for you. Now let's check the first question. So the first question says we have a given picture here and we need to find the arc length, which is this piece, arc AB. And also we know the central angle is given, which is 45 degrees, and we know the radius, which is 12. So now, since we need to find the arc length, let's use a different color. So let's just write down the length of arc AB. Remember this little curve on the top is a symbol for arc. Well, equal to, since we just find the arc length, I'm going to use the first method to directly find out the answer. And in order to use the first one, as you can see, we just need to replace the value we already have, which is central angle and the radius. So central angle here is 45 divided by 360, and then times 2 pi, and radius, which is 12. Please pay attention to, sometimes we might have diameter as the answer as a given value. Sometimes we have radius, so please make sure we read the question or check the picture carefully. Now it's time we're going to use the calculator, so that's why I put the calculator on the side. So when we put this, calculation here, there's no need to find out the fraction first and then multiply this kind of thing. We can just multiply everything together, type them together into the calculator or the online calculator if you prefer use that one. So I'm going to multiply, as we mentioned here, 360 and then times 2 times. So next one is pi. Online calculator is easy to you. It's easy for you to see. There's a key for pi. If you use this kind of calculator, check this little key here is a blue pi here. So it's second top arrow pi here. And then do not forget the last part, 12. Once we have everything here, now we see the answer, which is a long value. So we can round it as needed. And in this case, even we didn't see anything, let's just, quick practice different position for the rounding. If I round it to the first, to the hundredths, then we know we are going to keep the 2 digits is going to be 9.42, right? So this is nearest hundredths. And sometimes we might need to round it to the nearest thousands. Thousands is going to be keep the 3 digits. So it's going to be 424. Since next number is 7, greater than 5, we round it up. It's going to be 9.425. So both answer can be right. It really depends on, how the answer, how the question asking us. But we can just use this chance to quickly review how do we round the numbers, right? So now let's move on to check the second example. I don't know why, whenever I save this as PDF file, the picture is kind of misplaced. But anyway, let's read this question together. The diameter, so I'm going to underline the keyword here. This time I have a diameter is 24. And this time we are going to find the length of arc CD, which is this piece. And also the answer says in terms of pi. It's quite interesting, this one. So let's see how do we do this one. First of all, we need to find the arc length. So I'm going to just, again, I'm going to use the first one to find the arc length directly. But please pay attention here. So diameter is 24. But in this one, we're going to use the radius. So we can easily find the radius by taking half of the diameter, which is 12, right? So now we can just directly to do the calculation. So the length of arc CD, again, this is our symbol. You can just write like this way, because we either arc mirror or central angle, which is given 60 degree, divided by 360 times 2 pi r, and the radius is r, 2 pi and r. So some students might argue, since 2r is double the 24, I can just use, the diameter directly here. Just do not use 2r, but instead of just d directly. You are correct, which is exactly at the beginning we mentioned circumference can be used as 2 pi r or pi d, so really doesn't matter. So now it's actually come to the quite interesting answer here. The answer says in terms of pi. So that means I'm going to save the pi at the end. I'm not going to put the pi in there. So what you can do is I'm going to type everything in the calculator, but I'm not going to use pi. Because again, the question says I'm going to keep the answer in terms of pi. So I'm going to use 60 divided by 360 times 2. Do not use pi because we are going to keep it, then times 12. Now I can just come to the answer, which is 4. So the answer is 4 pi. So this one, since we have the unit, which is 4 pi centimeter, okay? So this is a little bit different from the previous one because we don't need to round the answer. Instead, we are going to keep the pi in the end. So please, in this situation, do not use pi in the calculator. Okay, the last example. Okay, so this example didn't tell us anything about picture. We don't see the picture, right? So let's read this statement here. What is the measure of the central angle? So this is a question. We need to find the central angle. This is a question mark here. And if its length is 14 pi and radius is 18. Okay, so it seems that this time we know the arc length. Let's use a different color. Let's see, I know this piece of the arc, which is 14 pi. We already know that. This is a length, by the way, it's not arc measurement. This is a length. And then we know the radius is 18. So now question is, how many degrees for the central angle? So that's actually our question here. So since I need to find the central angle, so this time we are going to use a second method, and you will see why it's easier to use this one. So I'm going to set up let central angle be x. So that means I'm going to use x to replace the central angle. According to this ratio here, central angle, again, same as arc mirror, over 360 is equals to arc length. We already know that, 14 pi divided by 2 pi r, which is 2 pi and r. Okay, before I move on, a lot of students going to say, hey, I'm going to use cross multiplication. You're right. But to make our life easier, I'm going to simplify as much as I can before I move on. So since they both have pi here, pi over pi canceled. So now I have x over 360 equal to 14 over 2 times 18, 36. So now let's just use cross multiplication. It's actually same as what we did before, like solving regular equation, right? So it's going to be 336x equals 360, sorry, wrong place, 360 times 14. What you can do is you can find out the answer here, or we know the next step, I need to divide by 36, so I just put it here. If you want to use mental math, probably you already figure out the answer, but if you don't, then we can just do this. 360 times 14 divided by 36. Do not forget this can cancel as 10, so the answer should be 140. Okay, so that means the central angle is 140 degrees. So this is 140 degree, right? So this is how do we use, as you can see, the second method is actually much easier to find out the central central angle or the radius in this situation, because we can just easily use cross multiplication to do it. If I use the first one, I have to move the number around, so it's not really directly as this one. Okay, so I know it's a bit long, but I think it's a good idea to really go back to think about what are the steps we do to think about this kind of example. So let's just quickly to do some like a reflection here. So as we know, the first one probably we always probably I need to make a bigger one. I don't know why it's not changing, but really doesn't matter. So let's just go back to original setting. So the first one we need to understand is check the given mission and choose a proper formula, right? Sometimes we choose the first one, sometimes we choose the second one. It really doesn't matter. And then what we need to do is we substitute the values, the given values into the formula. And solve the equation. That's what we do, right? And after that, we are going to decide, do we need to round? Or do we need to keep the answer in terms of pi? So that's one thing you need to check. So finally, again, check if you round it correctly, or did you keep the, or if you keep the pi in the right place. So that's one thing. As you can see, when we come to the central angle or even find the radius instead of arc length, I would suggest the second method. But if you are looking for the arc length, then it's better to use the first one because it's very direct, very straightforward, the answer here, formula here. But remember, if the question given us the diameter, then probably you need to consider, did you replace the correct value? If the question asking us to round the answer, then check how many places you need to keep. Or even sometimes we need to keep the answer in terms of pi, then when you do the calculation, the pi should be avoided to put in the calculator. One more thing I want to remind you, if you are going to use pi, do not use 3.14. Instead, just put a pi there, the calculation will do the full values there, then you round at the end. So that way you can avoid some possible rounding error if you just use 3.14. Okay, so I know it's a lot to listen to, But I really hope this video is helpful for you to summarize everything here. Of course, you can always rewatch it to understand the concept here. Thank you so much for watching this video. Take care, everyone.